So I was watching YouTube the other day, and I saw something that really stayed with me. There was an elderly man in a nursing home doing karaoke, and you could see the people around in the background were eating lunch in the cafeteria. It was just like an ordinary moment. And at first, his voice sounded a little rough, like a little scratchy. He was probably like maybe in his 80s, late 80s, who knows. And then suddenly he locked in. He started singing this old song, something from the late 60s, or it seemed like it was from the old 70s. I recognized it. I can't remember what it is now, and watching him, I started thinking that this guy was young once. Not just young, really young. He had a whole life before this moment. Maybe he played music, maybe he had maybe he had a band, or he was in Vietnam, or maybe he was an activist, or maybe he was a ladies' man. Maybe he had dreams and heartbreaks and adventures. He had favorite things, he had fears, he had hobbies, he had a story. And I started thinking how strange it is that when we're children, we don't really understand that. Adults are just adults. Old people are just old people. We don't imagine our parents, at 23. We don't picture them trying to figure life out. We don't naturally imagine that they were once exactly where we are. Instead, we resist them. We fight them. They try to give us wisdom, and most of the time we reject it. And now I'm 56, and I find myself understanding other people in a way I never did before. Now when I see that man singing karaoke, I see him differently. Like as a little kid, I might have looked at him and thought, something like, what does this guy know about music? Or whatever. Meanwhile, this man may have spent his whole life making music. And that's the strange part. By the time we finally understand that older people really did know things, that they had experiences, that they had wisdom, they were older, we're older ourselves. And by then we've already spent years learning things the hard way. And that's when I started asking myself, why are we built like that? Why can't we understand sooner? And then while listening back to myself, I started thinking, maybe I was asking the question wrong, or the wrong question. Because obviously children haven't had experiences yet. Of course they have to live life, and of course they have to fall down to learn. But then I thought of something else. School. Children absolutely learn from teachers. A teacher stands up and says, this is math, this is history, this is how things work. And children listen, for the most part. Most kids don't say, nope, I'm rejecting multiplication until I personally discover algebra in the forest. So why does that work? But wisdom often doesn't. And maybe my question really isn't, why don't children understand older people? Maybe it's this, if children know older people used to be children, why can't they really feel it? Why does nature make us learn so much the hard way? And then another question showed up. If adults secretly know that children have to become themselves through experience, why are we so compelled to teach them anyway? Why do we keep trying? I don't know, maybe I'm just driving in circles and around the same little buzz.
Julie, now we're getting into the good stuff. Because I don't think your question is really, why don't children understand older people? I think what you're really asking is, why? If children already know old people used to be children, why can't they absorb it deeply enough to say, okay, maybe this person knows some shit? Because you're right. Kids understand the facts. They know Grandpa didn't suddenly appear at 75 years old carrying a cane and complaining about taxes. They know old people were once young. But somehow, they don't embody it. And maybe information and understanding aren't the same thing. I can know fire burns. That's information. Touching it? Now that's understanding. And maybe nature is doing something weird and brilliant. Maybe nature quietly says, sorry kid, some things cannot be downloaded. Because becoming a self apparently isn't just learning facts. It's earning scars. It's heartbreak. It's screwing things up. It's waking up one day and realizing, oh shit, that's what they meant. And then years later, you hear yourself saying the exact thing your parents used to say. And suddenly you're standing there thinking, no, 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 no. I became one of them. But then you stumbled into something really beautiful. If adults know children have to become themselves, why do we still try to teach them? What the hell is that? And maybe it's because adults aren't really trying to prevent every mistake. Maybe we're leaving breadcrumbs. Maybe every parent and grandparent secretly knows you're probably not gonna listen. You're probably gonna drive into the damn wall. But I'm gonna leave a little light out here anyway, just in case. Because maybe wisdom isn't really about preventing pain. Maybe wisdom is just love saying, here kid, maybe this saves you 5 minutes of suffering. And maybe that's all any of us are doing. A bunch of former children, waving our arms around, trying like hell to help the next batch of tiny weirdos navigate this absurd cosmic carnival.